Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer. Of course, it was rumoured last night that it was going to be done and confirmed earlier this morning. Bielsa has left Leeds United. Guys, before I jump into the video today, please do hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well. Now, I wanted to do something a bit different with today's video, to be honest. I didn't want to just talk about Bielsa leaving. I wanted to do something a bit different. I wanted to speak about how Bielsa will be remembered, both with Leeds United, Premier League and football fans, as well, of course, giving my own perspective on Bielsa and what I thought of his time managing in English football. I mean, for Leeds fans, it's one of them. He's left and he had to leave, some would argue. I mean, Leeds now sitting 16th in the Premier League, having shipped 20 goals in their last 5 games. And if things don't work out well, they could see themselves drop into the relegation zone, especially with those around them having games in hand and those below them having games in hand. They could end up in the relegation zone before they have any kind of say on about it, really. But with Leeds fans, I feel that he will always be remembered as an absolute legend. He brought them their first return to the Premier League in 16 years. 16 years, a massive club, Leeds United, went without being in the Premier League. And he was the man to bring that football back to them. And he did it in the way that everyone would want to see football played. Yes, there was some controversy at times. I mean, obviously, Frank Lampard's derby comes to mind. But he played football the way we all enjoy and all want to see it. Kind of caution to the wind in sense of defensive. We're going to outscore you. And, some would argue that's ultimately been his downfall. But for so long, it brought such great memories for Leeds fans. It brought the promotion to the Premier League. And it also brought a 9th place finish last season. And watching Leeds was always exciting. Even not as a Leeds fan, you'd be excited. You'd feel the triumph of, potentially scoring a goal and then conceding 2 minutes later and then going and putting another 2 in the net. Like, watching Leeds has always been a joy with Bielsa, to be honest. It's always been a joy to watch their football be played. And as I was saying, sometimes that's been his downfall towards the end, but it's been a pleasure to watch. And it's not just that. That's not the only reason that I think Leeds fans will hold him so highly. He brought the community feel together. I remember one story of when Bielsa came in. He actually worked out the average salary in Leeds and then worked out that it would cost 3 hours work for the average fan to go and watch Leeds United. So what did he go and do? He made the players work by picking litter for 3 hours to give them a perspective, and bring them closer to the fans, to give them a perspective about how much work the fan goes into, just to have the luxury of going to watch Leeds United. And I feel there was little things like that means that it wasn't just about how, he did on the pitch. He brought a community feel together. There's countless times of he, phoning up sick people or elderly people, maybe telling them that, giving them a happy birthday wish, maybe wishing them well, hoping for a speedy recovery. He wasn't just the Leeds United manager. He really did pull together the whole community. And I think for that, from a Leeds perspective, he'll always be remembered as an absolute legend, regardless of what the end result of this season is. Now, of course, one thing that you can say about Bielsa was some people would usually use this as a negative, that he'd only ever sign a 1-year contract. But I actually like that because I found out off Leeds fans that was so he could check with the owners that their vision both aligned. And, ultimately now, Bielsa has been moved on, but the payout won't have cost Leeds that much. It's ended up suiting both parties. And you think back to a time where maybe Pardew had like 6 years left on his Crystal Palace contract that they had to pay off. What Bielsa did, really, he could have quite happily took on a 5-year contract. And I really do feel that kind of shows the integrity of Bielsa. Yes, some would argue it was kind of to suit him a little bit as well, but I really do feel that, it was for the best interests of himself and the club. I mean, from a general Premier League perspective view and my view on what Bielsa did, I hear a lot of people saying about this man that, he's failure to change tactics shows that he's not a top manager. And I've been arguing even with myself about this because ultimately I do agree maybe Leeds should have gone to a more defensive setup this season. But then at the same time, you'd argue that's just not Bielsa's philosophy. Bielsa's never played football in that manner. And it's one thing to ask someone to change tactics, maybe switch up a formation. It's another thing to ask a manager to change their whole philosophy of how they see football being played. You'd argue last season Leeds had, you'd probably argue because of injuries, Leeds were in a much better position squad-wise last season. Their failure to bring in really much in both transfer windows this year, I believe, have ultimately been Bielsa's downfall. I wasn't convinced with the Dan James signing. I'm still not, but that was the only real addition to the squad. And you do feel that maybe if money was put behind Bielsa, especially in reinforcing defensively, we'd be talking about a really different story here. Now, it almost feels to me that, of course, because Bielsa didn't have the squad and he didn't change his philosophy, it ultimately wasn't ever going to work this season, because the Leeds have and do need to maybe go a bit more defensive. Their squad has lessened. They have had more injuries, which, but at the same time, another thing I found really commendable about him, when other Premier League teams were kind of using the COVID excuse to get squads matches called off, one thing Bielsa did was, no, I'm going to give the kids a chance. I'm going to play them. And ultimately that may have ended up in another downfall for him long term. But again, he went with the integrity of what was right. And what was right was to get the game on for the fans and for everyone watching. In general, I think whether you respect Bielsa as a manager or not, one thing everyone will more mutually agree on is that he will be remembered. He's had an impact on everyone within the English game. I've enjoyed watching him. I've enjoyed watching Leeds' style of play. And ultimately, although he did, well, not he had to convince me. It took me some time to be convinced of Bielsa as a manager. I ultimately am feeling there's some regret of him leaving the Premier League, and I will miss him as a neutral. I do think he really did offer a lot. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Bielsa. How will he be remembered? Is it the right decision to move him on? Leeds fans, also let me know your thoughts. And guys, if you have enjoyed the video, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as well. And hopefully I'll see you on the next video. I will be doing some updates, of course, as we find out more about who the next Leeds manager will be. So watch out for those as well. And I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.